a go live streaming on YouTube and on X. I am Derek Gilbert and the
I'm Bruce
gentleman in the cap,
Collins.
and we are going to be facilitating, and this is why we're doing this dry run, a live Q&A, the second Christian Symposium on UFOs and alien abduction, live from Roswell, New Mexico. This will be coming up July 2nd, a Thursday evening, part of the annual Roswell UFO Festival, 3 to 8 p.m. Central Time. And because we are streaming to separate accounts, or at least we will be if we get this right, streaming to Bruce's YouTube channel and to our YouTube channel and X account, we wanted to make sure we could actually do this before we got to the event. Now, Bruce, you're going to be at Roswell for the event itself?
Yeah, bearing that gas prices are still under $50 a gallon.
Well, for now, thankfully, we here in the Ozarks are blessed. We have not yet we barely crossed over the $4 threshold here. Not quite sure. Okay, there we go. Yeah, my phone was flashing a message here. It's connected to the Mac. It's like, yeah, I know that. I'm using you as a mobile hotspot phone. Thank you. So
Yeah,
if you are joining us here,
Derek.
yeah, I mean, we were joking about this because, we started podcasting back in the day, and it was,
Well, for you it was 2005. For me, it
yeah.
was 2006.
So we were both early on in this, and yet somehow we never actually got one another on one another's programs. So we were joking that we can call this July 2nd event an event so large, so big, it was 20 years in the making.
That's right.
Which is I guess would be good marketing, but maybe not necessarily entirely true. It's just things, stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that were well known back then that I never got to interview, to be honest. Guy Malone was one of them. I emailed him. He was on Raiders News. I saw an article about him and I emailed him, and his response was, "Well, I'm kind of busy with my bookstore." So I never got to interview Guy.
We were blessed in that we were able to do that early on, and we actually in 2017, Sharon and me, along with Josh Peck, we were sent down by Tom Horn to cover the 70th anniversary of the Roswell UFO
Wow.
Festival. And we got, Dr. Michael Heiser, the late Dr. Heiser, was there giving a presentation at an event that Guy had coordinated along with Nick Redfern, the author of Final Events, who sadly has been undergoing some health challenges lately. But his book Final Events is the one that brought the so-called Collins elite to public attention. This is a group that was supposed to be a secretive, quasi-governmental organization that didn't really have an official title. That was actually their nickname, the Collins Elite, because one of the guys or two of the guys were from a small town in New York named Collins. But you hear the name Collins, if you've been deep into conspiracy research for a while, it's like, oh, that's one of the 13 Illuminati bloodlines.
And it's my last name.
and there we are. I think we've solved the entire thing.
That's right.
But it was really eye-opening for us, and Guy Malone has known this for a long time, of course, being right in the belly of the beast, as it were. But Roswell is not really, the UFO festival, not really inclined to try to solve the, let's see. Well, it looks like we actually got 10 viewers on YouTube there. All right.
And I noticed Frederick Meekins is in the chat on mine, so I want to say hello to Frederick.
Okay, very cool. Frederick is also a long time
Yeah.
fellow traveler in this this whole thing. Yeah, I see it. Okay, we are.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to mute my YouTube channel so I'm not hearing three different.
Yeah, it's challenging, but I think this shows that everything will be fine and dandy for July 2nd when we broadcast the second Christian Symposium on aliens and UFOs.
Yeah, and okay, see a comment there. It sounds like we're in a barrel. All right, I think we are getting dueling audio, which is one of the issues. Yeah,
Well, when we start out next time, we'll have to play Roll Out the Barrel.
Cancellation. Yeah, the echo cancellation thing feature in the right-hand column there is, I think, one thing we're going to have to troubleshoot. I'm trying to find get the chat open on my side here. Because Riverside is supposed to, which is the app that both of us are using.
Right.
And this is why we're trying to do this. He's got me on his, and I've got him on mine.
That's right.
And that's how we're streaming to two separate YouTube channels at the same time. But figuring out how this is going to work is part of the issue.
Step.
This is why we're doing this live stream and why this is such a comedy of errors here at this moment. Let's see. What do we got down here? Maybe it's
we don't have that natural authoritative voice normally that echoes.
Yeah, there are plugins we could use that would probably do that. But
well, the good news is, I think for the most part at the symposium we will not be talking. But we may want to do like maybe we could do it together, like an introduction. Welcome to the Second Christian Symposium. And then once the speaking starts, there shouldn't be that echo, I wouldn't think, because I would probably mute yours. You wouldn't want to mute mine because mine's a conduit to go to your stream.
Right, right.
So I think we'd be okay then.
Yeah, that actually makes sense.
I'm surprised. I'm not very technical.
Well, we may do another trial run before we get to July 2nd just to make sure we've got this all done and all proper. But the point is this: Joe Jordan and Guy Malone, along with Jackie Alnor, who is a Christian apologist who's also been deep into research of the UFO, UAP, alien abduction phenomena. I think we should separate those two. The mysterious lights in the sky are one thing, and probably 85 to 90% of those can be explained as misidentified aerial, commercial aircraft, military aircraft, even Starlink satellites, or now that those are chasing each other across the sky, constellations, the Pleiades, whatever. Maybe 10 to 15% unidentified. Those might be a secret government craft or whatever, secret government projects, or deliberate deceptions by fallen entities. But that should be kept separate, I think, from the alien abduction phenomenon, which is the purview of Joe Jordan, Guy Malone, and CE4 Research Group.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I want to say is, yes, Jackie is a great apologist. She's already apologized to me twice, and I barely knew her. No, I'm joking. But but seriously, I think one of the things that is happening in society is 50 years ago when I was a kid, I was born. By the way, I want to say hi to John Cassidy, who's also in my chat. I'm blessed to have two people since I'm not even monetized yet. So I'll take those two and I'll run with them.
Very nice.
But I think when I was a child and I was watching the movies about UFOs and the sitcoms like Mork and Mindy and Alf, yes, I admit I may have watched an Alf episode or two in my life.
Hey, well, that was one of my favorite shows. Huh?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think at that point, the Christian community, because I remember talking to my mom when I was a kid, was that these are not real and this is fantasy. And even back then, just the idea that they had a sitcom or two about that phenomenon, you don't see many sitcoms today about aliens like they did back then. I think that the media itself has taken a more serious tone. And so therefore we've wakened up to a society now where most people believe in the alien and UFO phenomenon. I thought the disclosures so far were a little underwhelming compared to, some of the hype that is going on today. And so, not to say that there won't be revelations coming that will be more disturbing for people, but I also view what's going on in the media and the news and all of that. And I find it interesting that they're pushing this narrative for the last 50 years, when 50 years ago, we didn't even believe in it.
Yeah.
And yet now society today, we can look back and say, what was the effect of that? Whether it was on purpose or not, I can't tell you. Whether or not it was, evil influencing culture. I wasn't privy to some of the scripts that were written and all of that, but looking back, we can see the effect. And that is, most of society today is really confused about some of these news stories and events, and even more the speculative ones. So the thing that I like about Joe Jordan, and I'll just touch on it briefly and then send it back to you, is that he actually has done things within MUFON as an investigator, and investigated these and seen the supernatural, spiritual connotations of this, and how the name of Jesus Christ has been used, and these beings will leave and stop the harassment towards the people who have been infected by it, or influenced by it, or affected by it. And you've interviewed people where you get these weird stories, like I think it was Nick Redfern or Micah Hanks had talked about some girls that were in a room and they were playing with a Ouija board, and a Bigfoot materialized in the room. Now, why would a primate materialize in a room? My grandparents, when I was a kid, they were pastors, and they talked about a young couple got saved and they started going to church, and they bought a Bible and they took it home, and they had a Ouija board left over from before they were Christians or born again. And one night they put the Bible on top of the Ouija board. They hadn't gotten rid of it yet for whatever reason. And when they woke up the next morning, the Ouija board was broken in half. And that came from my grandfather. So there's definitely a spiritual war going on that people need to know about, and separate that from some of the hype and the stories that are going around.
Yeah. This is something that Sharon and I have been interested, excuse me, for quite a while. And again, that's why we really appreciated the opportunity to go to Roswell and to see for ourselves that for most of the people there, the question of so-called aliens is a spiritual quest and not a scientific quest. In other words, they're not so interested in how they crossed the immensely, unimaginably vast distances between the stars, but how our space brothers can help us evolve, or ascend.
Right.
And and this was the focus of Mike Heiser's presentation back in 2017, how science fiction is used to evangelize the ET gospel. And that was a chapter that I included in the book that came out in 2024 that I co-authored with Donna Howell and Allie Anderson, called Destination Earth. We've been desensitized to the idea that alien life exists. Most people don't really think critically about it, and that was one of the points that I hope I made in that book, in the sections that I wrote, that we need to remember as Christians. Jesus told us to love the Lord our God with all of our hearts, all of our souls, and all of our minds. And oftentimes we will stop after two, heart and soul, that's good enough. Mind, well, we'll disengage that, and the praise and worship. Yeah, well, I won't go down that route. Some of those praise and worship songs are a little light on theological meat. Anyway, you see the guy, Giorgio with the crazy hair on the History Channel, saying, we don't know how they lifted these immense blocks into place. So could it be aliens? No, not necessarily. I've done some digging into things like that and given presentations where I've pointed out that, there are trucking companies here in the United States that specialize in moving loads bigger than some of those immense stone blocks at places like Baalbek and the Western Wall in Jerusalem and the pyramids in Egypt. You just got to get a lot of permits, police escort, and you only can go over certain bridges because they can't handle the weight. But yes, in fact, the largest stone ever moved in history, the Thunderstone, which is the base of the statue of Peter the Great in St. Petersburg, Russia, started out at 1,650 tons, which is bigger than the Trilithon stones at Baalbek. And it was moved by a bunch of Russians with ropes. And we know this because they did it in 1760, with witnesses who wrote it down, recorded it for history. So look, just because, and now transfer that to the present day. 2004, the USS Nimitz incident, Lieutenant Commander David Fravor and his co-pilot Slate, Jim Slate, spotted the so-called Tic Tac video. And this was after a couple of weeks where radar operators on the USS Princeton, which is part of the Nimitz carrier group, said they'd been seeing anomalous radar contacts for a couple of weeks, things that would be at 80,000 feet, and then seconds later it'd be at 20,000 feet. Things doing impossible things with human occupants inside the craft because the G forces would turn the human body to jelly at that with those forces. But just because Fravor and Slate and the other guys in the Marine Corps F-18 unit that also spotted this thing, the radar operators on the USS Princeton, there were guys on the USS Los Angeles, which was a nuclear submarine. It was in the vicinity at the time of this event. Just because they couldn't identify what it was doesn't necessarily follow that it's extraterrestrial. Mm-hmm. I mean, the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter was a myth. It was an urban legend. It was a story, a fairy tale, until suddenly it popped up in Operation Desert Storm or Gulf War I. I forget where it was unveiled for the first time. The point being that it may be a drone that's being operated or tested by a government, maybe ours, maybe China's, maybe Russia's. We don't know. But it was for the same reason that the Roswell crash was sold to the public as the crash of an alien craft rather than something else. And Guy Malone has given a really good presentation on this, on the probability that it was research being done by former Nazi scientists, which in 1947 would have driven the American public bananas if we knew that we had guys that we'd smuggled out of Germany on the rat lines being paid by the American taxpayer. So things like that we need to, engage critical thinking. Just because we don't know what it is doesn't automatically follow that it's extraterrestrial. And that's the point of the upcoming Christian Symposium on UFOs and alien abduction. 100%. What are your questions?
Can I say one thing, though?
Yeah, please.
And that was a great intro to this study. There will be Christians that will disagree with what you just said, and I agree with you. And I agree with you, by the way. But one person that you and I both loved and respected was Patrick Heron, who would have taken the view that the Nephilim created the pyramids, right? Yeah. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I thought it was a great book, though, and I know he loved the Lord. So we are people that disagree on things, points A and B and C, but where this can benefit even someone who may not agree with everything that is being said is that you may learn something. I've learned things before where I disagreed with people, and I had guests on that would challenge me on things. And I think from doing this, and probably you would agree with this, I'm more of a talk show host. I'm not really an expert on a lot of things. But one thing that I've found is in interviewing people over the years, and I stopped doing it for like 10 years. So I would say for the first 10 years, the experience that I had was that the more I interviewed people that I disagreed with, I didn't always change my mind, but I could see their point. And there's a lot of things in the Bible that can be interpreted different ways. And there's great division because of that. And I've probably been party to some of that, to be totally frank and honest. But I think everybody that has an interest in this, and even unbelievers, may want to see the evidence. There's some really compelling evidence that Joe Jordan and Guy Malone have compiled over the years. Hands-on evidence. It's not just like they're speaking, out of conjecture. It's things that they've done, people they've met, people whose lives have been changed. So I'm just piggybacking on what you said, Derek. I think it would be beneficial for all sorts of people to join this symposium. And if at the end you disagree with points A and D and Z, that's fine. We can all still be friends.
Now, as far as the physical particulars, if people are going to be in Roswell for the UFO festival, where will this event be held? Do you have all that handy?
Actually, I don't. I think
Might
they
be
should.
good to know since you're going to be there.
Yeah, and I don't even know the time either. The only thing and I'm not sure. I know Joe Jordan and Guy Malone would know the address at least. And from what I heard, it's upstairs somewhere. And I believe it's starting at 2 p.m. And then I heard Joe Jordan one day say it was ending no later than 9 p.m. Eastern time, which,
Right.
and then I know the next morning I'm going back to see my little black cat in Arizona. But
Yeah, that's what I was told. 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central, so 2 to
Okay.
7 Mountain.
Okay, there you go.
And the reason it's being done on July 2nd instead of July 4th, because July 4th is always the big day for the festival. And of course, that'll be a Saturday as well.
And I think I think it's likely that people are listening to this here with us are probably going to be watching it online, because I think Joe and Guy really want people who are going to be part of that UFO festival that's going to be going on the 4th of July to kind of come in and sort of be unsuspecting to what they're doing, because they're going to potentially be dressing up as men in black. And we saw you posted Joe's appearance at Oregon, which I believe was also a UFO festival.
Yes,
of some
the famous
kind.
McMinnville UFO festival up there in Oregon. The non-human, what is it? The non-human immigration customs enforcement. So NICE is the acronym, NICE. And it's brilliant, especially because Joe's got a beard that would fit him. You know, he would fit right in here in the Ozarks. Mine is a little deficient for the Ozarks, but we keep it, neat and trim for television, because we still work with Skywatch TV.
Yeah.
But I think Joe is going to be doing that. And Guy, I don't know if he's going to dress up as the werewolf of Roswell. Maybe not. But
interesting branding.
Yeah. It is going to be a live event in Roswell, and Jackie Alnor will be with them. And God bless her for being willing to, associate herself with those two.
She's going to balance them out.
She will. She is a serious researcher who's done a lot, and that's taken nothing away from Joe and Guy. I mean, Joe for his work with MUFON, and the fact that he so willingly admits that it was the work with MUFON as the head of investigations for the state of Florida. I think he may have been the Florida director for MUFON at the time.
Yeah, I think so.
And researching accounts of contact and abduction, and finding out and hearing again and again those reports of people who said that these incidents were stopped when people called on the name of Jesus. And then asking other investigators, now, wait a minute, why is this not something that is talked about? Because I'm hearing this over and over again. It's like, oh yeah, we get reports like that all the time. It just, we don't like to talk about that because it's not, I'm paraphrasing, I'm sure, but essentially it didn't fit the narrative. And so those reports were squashed. And it was that led Joe from being, as he, and I remember his words very clearly, a raging New Ager, to becoming a believer in Jesus Christ. It's like, okay, if you're an alien from Zeta Reticuli, why would calling on the name of Christ stop an abduction event? Our friend Vicki Joy Anderson, who lives very close to us here in the Ozarks now, who's written the excellent book, They Only Come Out at Night, about night terrors and sleep paralysis and the spiritual forces that are often behind those incidents. Those are often very, very similar to abduction events. And they're demonic. There's no question. So Joe has done the primary, the ground level research, and I know that there are others in our community who disagree with Joe and his research, but he's taken the accounts, he's recorded them, he has interviewed those people who've suffered from this. And in fact, when we were there in Roswell in 2017, Joe was there, and we were able to interview a couple of the people one lady in particular, who I remember seeing her story years ago on a cable series called Sightings. I don't know. It was never as popular as some of the other supernatural or paranormal themed shows. But she's from Springfield, Missouri.
Wow.
And so at the time, here we are. We had to go all the way to Roswell to meet somebody who was living 45 minutes away and heard her story. And it was heart-wrenching, the years that she went through, her and her family, of the torment of dealing with these, what they thought were alien encounters. And come to find out that it was the name of Jesus Christ and a faith in Jesus Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit that put a stop to it for her and her whole family. So Joe, again, feels very passionately about his work, and I see why he does, because he's interacted with people and heard their stories and seen the terror, heard from them directly, the terror that they and their families had to endure. So for others to dismiss their accounts as, uninformed, I can see why Joe defends his research as he does. And for the record, I agree with him. In fact, in the book Destination Earth, I cited Joe and his research and his work because I think he's right. And again, this is why I say we need to separate the UFO phenomenon from the
definitely
abduction contactee phenomenon.
Yeah, and even I think unbelieving UAP disclosure experts are, some of them are seeing that. I just interviewed Micah Hanks, and he was saying the very same thing. Like he thought at one time a few years back maybe we would find out more about UAPs, and now he's thinking we're kind of on the decline with that. But the one thing he says is he thinks it's a totally different subject to discuss these entities. And as he says it, as a non-Christian, he says, I don't care if you call them aliens. I don't care if you call them demons. I don't care if you call them ultra-terrestrials. I don't care if you call them time travelers. This seems to be happening. But the UFO phenomenon, there are some compelling eyewitness accounts, but he's developed a UAP disclosure database where a lot of the sightings that people see, he will then go and take those and compare them to meteor sightings that were found in that area, or where Starlink satellites are and things like that. And he's finding a lot of sightings are based on misinformed or uninformed eyewitness accounts. And so, but the entities part is definitely ongoing. And so it's something we need to look at. And I think a great tagline for this symposium would be what MUFON doesn't want you to hear. So if you want to, if you know what MUFON has told you all these years, go to see this, because Joe Jordan is part of MUFON, and this is not something they want you to know about. So I think people would be intrigued by that.
Yeah. And one thing we also want to point out I think we got about 45 now watching our stream. God bless you, because it was barely
that's
announced.
Excellent. I've got 2.5 people. And I think I'm the half.
Well, yeah, your hat is a little bit
half and half
schizophrenic there. We will be taking questions in advance so that we can ask your questions during the live stream.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Really, the role that I have in all this, Guy had asked if I would be willing to come down to Roswell for it, and sadly, because of the health issues that I'm dealing with a little bit, neurological issues, travel is more difficult because not just mobility, but you can hear why I kind of sound like I'm gasping for air a bit, because I've got mild COPD that's developed over the last 18 months, part of this neurological issue, which is strange. They say you've got emphysematous areas in your lungs, not to the point where I need oxygen or anything like that. And the puzzle is I've never smoked, never worked with smokers, never lived with smokers. It's just one of those things. But so travel's a little more difficult. So we're going to do it from our remote location here in the heart of the Missouri Ozarks. But if you've got questions that you would like to pass along, and we'll be talking about this between now and July 2nd. Sharon and I will be talking about this on our podcast. You can send questions to us at info@gilberthouse.org. That's info@gilberthouse, one word, .org. And we will catalog those, and then if Guy and Joe have a great turnout and lots of interaction there, people live, great. We want people in the room there to ask questions because they're in Roswell, because they're seeking and probably seeking answers for the wrong reasons, or at least there's a good chance that that's the case.
Yeah.
Based on what we saw in 2017, lots of tarot card readers and places where you could buy healing crystals, only one booth from a Christian church. But if things slow down, we'll be happy to throw questions from our end. And of course, during the live stream, we'll be keeping an eye on the live stream as well for questions coming in during the event, because with the new Steven Spielberg movie coming out in just a little over 2 weeks now, Disclosure Day, this is probably going to be a very hot topic, especially given that the Roswell event will be less than a month following the release of this Spielberg movie. And Spielberg, between E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and what was the other big one that he did? That he did a miniseries that aired maybe 20 years ago that dealt with people who were abducted.
Interesting. I bet I saw that because I remember there was one that had an impact on me, and it was I think it was in the 1980s. Is that right?
Could be that far back. I remember that one of the stars was one of the guys who played Jason on Days of Our Lives at the time, and I don't remember why I was watching Days of Our Lives. Might have been during one of my periods of unemployment in the radio business.
Was it sort of a documentary, those series?
It might have been a docu-series of some sort.
I mean, it was like a play or a performance, but it was based on events. Is that because I remember seeing something about that in the 80s?
Yeah. So Spielberg has kind of made his bones doing sci-fi, of course, the Indiana Jones movies, but gosh, Close Encounters, E.T., and I know there's another one that I'm just forgetting that was another big movie. Anyway, in the chat, if you're there and you can remember the other Steven Spielberg space movie that I'm forgetting here, or E.T. Contact movie, feel free to throw that up there. That'd be a great help. But given that Spielberg is who he is and that he came out of retirement, essentially, to direct this film, this is going to be kind of a splash, I think. If it's done well, and given that it's Spielberg, it probably is. Again, we've been so desensitized to the idea that aliens exist. When we were beginning to look at this back in 2017, and I was starting to do presentations on this, I looked at research on what people believe about the existence of extraterrestrial life. In 2012, when the Nat Geo channel was getting ready to launch its UFO channel, because like anything else in pop culture or broadcasting, if somebody comes up with an idea that's selling, people, other networks, other producers will rush in to copy it. They conducted a survey and found that 36% of American adults believed that we've been contacted by extraterrestrial life, or believed in the existence of extraterrestrial life. But then you look at the surveys conducted by George Barna at Arizona Christian University. The Barna Research Group has for a couple of decades been interviewing and surveying Christians about what we American adults believe about God, the Bible, Jesus Christ, and so on, both believers and non-believers, and found that since COVID, at the time I first looked at this back in 2017, 9% of American adults had a biblical worldview as defined by Barna, which, as he defined it, involved believing in 6 basic tenets of Christian theology, like Jesus was born of a virgin, lived a sinless life, literally rose again from the dead. Satan is a literal entity and not a concept or an idea or a force. Things like that. Should be Christianity 101. So only 9% of American adults had a biblical worldview compared to 36% of American adults who believed in the existence of ET. But since COVID, the percentage of American adults with a biblical worldview has dropped to 4%, which means, dear viewer, that there are 9 times more people out there in America who believe that ET exists than who believe in God as he has defined himself in the Bible. And that is why this is not a fringe topic for Christians to discuss. This really should be front and center. And, that's one of the things that, because I know we've been discussing sort of behind the scenes, the flap that's gone out there recently about pastors who were briefed by an independent, UFO research group, and how that was handled. And I don't want to name any names or throw anyone under the bus. It should have been handled better than it was. But it was, there are those who picked up on this inside the body of Christ and are holding those pastors up who have gone public and said, yeah, I was in one of the meetings, for ridicule. It was like, oh, yeah, I watched a video the other night of a couple of guys discussing it, and you could tell by the tone of the discussion right from the start. So, have you seen any strange lights in the night sky? Like, okay, you didn't say what you were thinking, but you made it pretty clear what you're thinking. So, look, I'm sorry. Maybe these guys didn't handle it well, but the topic itself is one that we as a church should not make mockery of.
Right.
And, I think we're in agreement on this, Bruce. Otherwise, we wouldn't have signed up with Joe and Guy and Jackie to do this thing on July 2nd.
Yeah. Well, originally I thought there was going to be a free dinner, but no. No, I totally agree
Well, Guy,
with you.
Guy used to work at the cattleman's place down there, and
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I used to think Guy was bipolar, but then I found out he was flat Earth. No, just kidding. He's going to kill me for that one. No, he's a great guy. In fact, I've been his backup guest for the last 3 weeks, but fortunately for him, he's found other people for his show. Yeah. As a matter of fact, by the way, Derek, I hope you guys can't hear this, but my dog has been eating his lunch right next to me down here. He's a really cute cat.
Can't hear it.
Bear.
Okay.
1 second. Hurry up. I need that coffee cup back. Okay, we're good. Now, I agree. This is a very serious subject, and we should be looking into it. And other people of different faiths should be looking at answers. That's what we're talking about, is answers for these problems that are going on. By the way, Frederick Meekins in the chat said you may be thinking of the series Falling Skies.
Okay, that could be.
But I know that it comes to me that, actually, I Googled it. I better not act too smart. But Spielberg was also tied to the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds movie, but I do not think that's what you're talking about, right?
No, it isn't. But that is another one that is well worth remembering. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I definitely think that we're going to have, first of all, it's going to be fun, and you and I are going to have a good time. And intergalactically, or whatever we're doing through the airwaves. And I think that people are going to enjoy both of these speakers. If they've never heard of Jackie, Guy, many of our audience has, obviously, and Joe Jordan. But if you haven't, join us. We're not selling you anything. It's a free conference. The people that are, I actually posted this on Facebook, and somebody reposted it. And their comment was more grifters. And I just want you to know that Joe Jordan is not selling an event. Guy Malone we're not selling tickets. It's free to people in Roswell. If you're in Roswell, join us wherever we're located. Just circle the area, make small circles until you get there. You'll find it somehow.
Yes.
But
and you'll leave behind some really great patterns in the sand that'll drive researchers nuts for weeks.
That's right. There's nice people involved in this. And if you have questions, even if you're not a Christian, if you have questions, email Derek. You could email me at collinsbd@aol.com with questions, and we will make sure they get presented that evening, and make sure your questions are answered. So I think people are going to gain a lot of information that they need, particularly with all the craziness that is going on right now.
Yeah. Again, a good time to for this particular event, following as it does the new Steven Spielberg film, but also the ramping up of this drum beat ever since 2017 and the release of the Tic Tac video, which by the way, I pointed out in the book Destination Earth. That video had been on the internet since 2007. And it got yanked off the internet shortly before 2014. There was a fighter pilot by the name of Paco Chieri who writes for a website called Fighter Sweep. And as he was getting ready to write the article back in 2014, he contacted Commander Fravor because he'd heard the story directly from Commander Fravor. And he was writing a story about, the weirdest events we'd ever heard of while we were, on a mission or training or whatever. And he wanted to refresh his memory of the events. And that's when Commander Fravor said, it's strange, but everyone involved in the incident on the Nimitz, on the Princeton, the Los Angeles, the Hawkeye aircraft is the screw top aircraft that coordinates location between all the friendly craft in the area. They were all interviewed by someone from a 3-letter agency. Now, which one, I don't know. CIA, DIA, NSA, don't know. But the YouTube video, which had been posted to, you remember the old conspiracy forum Above Top Secret?
Yes.
Yes, it's still out there. But somebody had posted it to Above Top Secret back in 2007 and somehow, and to YouTube. And so somewhere around 2014 or shortly before, it got pulled off. And then suddenly 2017, it shows up again thanks to the New York Times and the authors of that piece, Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Kean, both UFO true believers. And Lou Elizondo, the featured interview guest on the piece. And suddenly it's like, smuggled out of the Pentagon, secret Pentagon files, video files. It had been on YouTube for years. So why is it suddenly a thing? Why is it being promoted? Why are we hearing about this now in the mainstream media, where, as you said earlier, this had been mocked by the corporate media for years, and now suddenly we're taking it seriously? What is going on here? What's the drive for disclosure?
Right.
And are the intelligence services doing what they've done since 1947, which is controlling the narrative? To what end?
Yeah.
We as Christians should have good answers for it, or at least prepare people to say, hey, look, if you properly understand the verse in Genesis chapter 1, where God says, let us create man in our image, that does not mean God is a biped, about 6 feet tall with 10 fingers and 10 toes. It means we bear his image as his moral agents. We carry his flag, as it were, on planet Earth. So if a legitimate extraterrestrial shows up from Zeta Reticuli, lands on the White House lawn, okay, we're still God's image bearers on planet Earth. This does not shake my faith in Jesus Christ at all. This is the message we need to be carrying to the church. Now, for the record, I don't believe there's any credible evidence to date of the actual existence of ETs. Again, the distance between here and the nearest star is so unimaginably vast, and the technical issues are such that, Gary, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name now, did a wonderful documentary on this a few years back. Gary Bates, I think is right.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right.
Narrated by John Schneider. Joe Jordan was in the documentary.
John Schneider of the Dukes of Hazzard?
Yeah.
Wow.
They did a really good job of outlining all of the technical and engineering challenges that would be required to overcome space flight between here and the nearest star. I mean, at the speed it would take to get there within the lifetime of a human being, a grain of sand hitting the craft would be like a nuclear explosion against the side of the craft. And, how do you defend against that? Science fiction writers, come up with clever solutions like that, wormholes, hyperspace. Yeah, but it's science fiction, emphasis on fiction. This is not actual reality yet. So until that day, we can say, okay, these entities might be claiming to be from, some other planet elsewhere in space. But until they show me really good hard evidence, I'm going to reserve judgment. But if they say, if we as Christians say, yeah, we believe that the earth has been visited by inhuman entities for millennia. Okay, yeah. Fallen angels, demons, yeah. The UFO folks, without realizing it, are talking our language.
Yeah. Just to back up what you're saying about space and time, I mean, I'm 58 years old and I haven't gone very far.
And the older we get, the less far we go.
Yeah, fortunately, I might forget about it later.
That's it. Welcome. It's my first day. He's been here 10 years.
That's right.
Well, again, the event is the second Christian Symposium on UFOs and alien abduction. And again, I like the title because it separates the two. UFOs, alien abduction, essentially two separate phenomena. Joe Jordan, Guy Malone, Jackie Alnor be taking questions live in Roswell, and they will be putting up information about that. And of course, we'll be sharing that through our channels, social media, X, YouTube, Facebook, through our podcast and so forth between now and July. And again, if you want to ask questions, get those in advance. Just send that to info@gilberthouse.org, or Bruce, your email address?
Oh, collinsbd@aol.com.
Yeah.
I'm still using AOL.
You still get the little notice, ding, you've got mail.
No.
They don't use that anymore.
Well, I don't hear it. If it could be my hearing.
Yeah, well, again, age is a harsh mistress.
I used to hear it.
Those data CDs they sent out to get you loaded up made wonderful Christmas ornaments on the tree.
Yeah, and I think it was like $10 for the first 10 hours or something like that.
Yeah, back in the day, that sound of the modem connecting over the phone line and having to tell all your family, don't call between this and this time on Saturday because we'll be interviewing a guest for the podcast.
Yeah.
You try to ring in and it interrupts the connection.
Hey, can I ask you something real quick that's a little bit off topic? How did you come about doing Peering into Darkness? Because I find that kind of stuff interesting because you were the forerunners and you and Sharon started this before anybody else. So where did you come up with the kind of the mission statement of what you were doing?
Well, like all the good ideas that come out of our house, it was Sharon's idea. And she said, this really is kind of what we do. We look at things that maybe others in the church don't want to look at, like, entertainment or video games or, geopolitical things, or as she terms it, theopolitical, because what we're seeing in the news is really just the shadows on the wall of the real spiritual fight going on, outside beyond the limits of human sight. Because as Paul wrote, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We're not wrestling against human opponents, against principalities, powers, cosmic rulers over this present darkness. So this present darkness, peering into darkness, and that's what started it with PID Radio back in March of 2005. We've been looking around, and because we're not trying to pat ourselves on the back for something we don't deserve, but I think we are the longest running continuously produced podcast on the internet.
Wow.
Now we're not we're not anywhere near like Joe Rogan status, but on the other hand, Jesus said, "Woe unto you when the world speaks well of you." So we're happy doing what we do, and there've been times where we put it on hiatus for a few months because of things going on that kept us busy, or we just felt like we were kind of burnt out on the material. But we restarted again about 2 years ago on a weekly basis because, for a while there we were doing monthly and or whenever we felt there was something to say. But back to doing it weekly. My podcast, A View from the Bunker, started in June of 2009. So that one is going on, I think we're coming up on, what does that make, 17 years?
Yeah.
So, and between PID Radio and A View from the Bunker, and then our weekly Bible study podcast, the Gilbert House Fellowship, which we just did episode 482.
Wow.
We have well over 2,000 podcast episodes, plus another 600 episodes of Unraveling Revelation and Sci Friday and 30 more of the Bible's greatest mysteries. And I don't even know how many episodes of 5 and 10 I produced for Skywatch TV over the last 11 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got a lot of content out there. If people want to know what we think about things, it's pretty easy to find video or audio. I'm thankful that we were wise enough to hang on to all of that old audio because now, just the last couple of years, we started up an account at Substack, gilberthouse.substack.com, and we've been releasing excerpts from our books there. And then, Sharon said, we had to do a Throwback Thursday for PID Radio. Great idea. How about doing a Wayback Wednesday for a View from the Bunker? She says, yeah, and have a Flashback Friday for Sci Friday. It's like, okay, more editing. But we've got a lot of content in the archives.
That's
a lot
great.
of this stuff goes back to well beyond the point where a lot of people discovered podcasts. I think podcasts really leapt into the mainstream during COVID when people were looking for content because you couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything for a lot of folks. So suddenly podcasts became the norm and everybody and their brothers got a podcast. And so we're going back and we're mining the archives and bringing out like first interview with Tom Horn, first interview with Mike Heiser, first interview with L.A. Marzulli, first interview with, Guy Malone, I'm sure will come up here shortly. But it's fun to go back and listen to those things because we've done so many of them now over so many years that we've kind of forgotten some of the things that we discussed.
Yeah.
Hey, do you remember when we talked about this? We just posted one today, is Thursday. So Throwback Thursday was an interview we did in 2006 with an Israeli investigative journalist, Barry Chamish, who has since gone home. He's since passed away, sadly.
Yeah.
But in 2006, he made a very interesting prediction that there would be a greater Middle East coming. But it wasn't the one that a lot of people are accusing Netanyahu of wanting to create, where Israel rules the entire Middle East. It's where Israel gets subsumed into a Middle East super state like the European Union. And it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. I had completely forgotten that conversation. So anyway, it's kind of educational for us to go back and hear those too. And I hope people are getting something out of it. We posted our first interview with Russ Dizdar about the Black Awakening.
Oh, yeah.
And his reports that he was hearing from people who were demonically possessed of a day when a switch would flip and suddenly there would be mass chaos as people who didn't even know that they had an altered personality that would be triggered on a certain signal. And so pray that we don't see that day. But yeah, it was one of those things. A lot of people who had been following us for 5 years, even 10 years, had never heard that before because this was going back almost 20. So anyway, that's the whole point behind Peering into Darkness. We're looking at stuff and saying, hey, look, we can still laugh because God, Psalm 2, he who sits in the heavens laughs. He holds them in derision. It's the kings who are conspiring and plotting a vain thing. He who sits in the heavens laughs. So these fools, the World Economic Forum, the globalists, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, they think they're winning. More the fools they.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, interesting. I'm always interested in how people went from here to there. How did you find your guests?
Just people that we were researching and finding, whose research we found really useful. Mike Heiser was one of the first. Tom Horn was another.
Oh, yeah.
And just, managed to track down an email address and say, hey, we're doing this thing called a podcast. What is that? Well, it's based on the iPod, which we've been doing it so long, we've outlived the iPod.
Right. That's right.
And God bless them. They were willing to, connect with us. And early on, because we didn't have tools like, Skype, we've outlived Skype now. That's defunct.
Yeah, that is
but
crazy.
Zoom wasn't a thing back then. Neither was Skype. So we were actually having to call people on a cordless phone to which I had a Radio Shack doohickey attached with alligator clips, and we had to run the audio. Bruce, this is like Rube Goldberg, if you're familiar with those old comics
Yes.
from the. Had to run the audio through a Sony Handycam, and then the output of the Sony Handycam into a little device that looked like a hockey puck that took the audio and ran it through a USB port into my MacBook. This is
Wow.
back in 2005 and 6, and it worked. The audio is horrible, but but it worked. So now the tools we've got, make it a lot easier, which is a good thing, because at my age, I'm like, I'm getting too old to
Same
connect
here.
the doohickey. Yeah, I
same
think
here.
we've outlived cordless phones too, and landlines.
And rest in peace, Blog Talk Radio.
Blog Talk Radio. Yes, because originally we were on Blog Talk Radio.
I was too.
In fact, did some live programs on Blog Talk Radio. Took some phone calls. So we've been around a little while.
Yeah.
Not that people could tell,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think we've proven proof of concept. I think the one thing I'm seeing comments from in the live chat down here. I finally figured out to see the live chat. I've got to have my YouTube channel open on my iPad down here, but it is just a little bit of echo.
Hey,
I think
Derek,
there's an echo cancellation function that we could probably trigger on your side that'll cure that.
I got another Spielberg, I guess at least influenced. I don't think this is the movie either, but somebody submitted Super 8.
No, that's not the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
It is a sci-fi film by Spielberg, but it's not
Yeah.
the one I was thinking of.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
too
we'll-
late.
We'll research it between now and July 2nd.
Yeah. Yeah, and thanks for bringing me back on track. Don't forget the second Christian Symposium of Aliens and UFOs coming on July 2nd, right here at Gilbert House, gilberthouse.org, and also the Gilbert House YouTube channel.
Yeah, youtube.com/@GilbertHouse is the address, youtube.com/@GilbertHouse. And your YouTube channel is?
Well, people ask me, why did you come up with the name Bruce Collins? No, it's the Bruce Collins Show YouTube
Okay.
channel, and I'm not sure exactly what my @ sign is. So
We'll figure that out, and we will promote that. But share the link around between now and July 2nd. Again, that's 3 to 8 p.m. Central Time, 2 to 7 if you're in the Mountain Time Zone. Would that be 5 to 9 out in the East Coast? And so if you're in Roswell, great. Look up Joe, Guy, and Jackie. Otherwise, log on to either one of our YouTube channels and follow along, because someone may come up with a question that you haven't thought of. And if you've got a question you've always wanted put to people who've been doing a lot of research, years of research, more than a decade of research. I mean, Guy Malone is the one who founded the now legendary Ancient of Days Bible UFO conferences that brought together men like Patrick Heron, Tom Horn, Michael Heiser, David Flynn, and even secular researchers like Richard Hoagland. This would be a thing. Nick Redfern and others. Chance to pick their brains live and in real time, and get some answers from Christians who've been digging into this for a long, long time. So unless we do this again, which might not be a bad idea, we will see you all again on July 2nd of 2026. I'm Derek Gilbert.
and if we do this again, it will have to be the second test of the second Christian Symposium.
Right. That's like two squared. Yeah.
This is Bruce Collins, the Bruce Collins Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Derek, I want to say it's an honor to speak to you today and to actually see you. Now we have the technology.
Absolutely. Well, Bruce said, we had to wait until they invented the technology so we could do this properly. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Look forward to doing this on July 2nd, and thank you all for